I would like to take a moment to let you know that not only Ashley is here, we have in the audience some of the very brave women who courageously came forward to tell their story, and I want to acknowledge them and take a moment and ask them to stand up.
It's obviously heavy being in this room. It's a room where Harvey Weinstein has been, at this room in this festival. But also in this room, to have so many survivors of his abuse is deeply meaningful. And to have all of you who brought this story to the screen, thank you for sharing it with us tonight. Maria. I'll start with you, and I have a bunch of questions. And we have limited time because some folks have to literally run to the airport to go to another film festival. Maybe just lay the foundation, Maria, for us in your decision to take on this, as I was acknowledging, this very heavy but empowering and monumental story, and bringing it to the screen.
Yeah, it's only 5 years ago, as you said before, and it almost, from our perspective, feels like an historic moment because so much has happened, specifically in the wake of the publication. And I lived through it. We all lived through it, and it impacted me and led to enormous discussions, and people call it a cultural shift. And so we were all very aware of the story. What we were not aware about is how that story came along, and who were these people, and how did they start to investigate it. And so, yeah.
Thank you for sharing it with us tonight and being here.
Thank you.
Ashley, thank you. You're
welcome.
You broke your silence, and that was a seismic decision. May I invite you to share some thoughts in deciding to go even further and participate in bringing this film to the big screen?
Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge my sisters and thank them for their courage as well. And I just want to say, because I live in a mixed reality of being here with y'all tonight, and I just want to remember that when I was speaking with my mother about this, she said, "Oh, go get him, honey." And in her sweet, homey way, in dulcet tones, just like that, not a punitive bone in her body. She just was enthralled by my audacity, as I later heard from our friends. When I got a call from Nicholas Kristof, I thought, oh, it's about Harvey. And it was Nicholas reaching out to me about Jodi, and then I learned about Megan. And it was very easy for me to tell the story because, as I say in the film, my dad was with me on that day in 1996. And when I came down from the hotel room, he knew by his own description that something devastating had just happened to me by the look on my face. And so it was very validating that someone finally wanted to listen and do something about it. And the film was the next step in that. And obviously the script is written, beautifully done, and based on a very powerful book, based on a very powerful Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative report. And I just kept telling the story on the movie. You know, my lines got longer and longer. I kept filling in more detail as much as the lawyers would allow me, because it's so important to be in our truth and to have our righteousness in our story. And so it was a very simple thing for me to do, and I was very grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you. Zoe and Carey, these are iconic women that you portray on screen. Still very much alive and active, sitting here with us.
I hope so.
Please share with us your decision and experience in bringing these real women to the screen.
I mean, it's a daunting prospect to play anyone real, and then to play such, real heroes of our society. So, I was terrified the whole time, and I still am. But we were so lucky because we immediately got to know these women and got to see, they operate at the highest level in what they do, and it's just remarkable and fascinating to learn about that. It was just something I didn't know anything about, and then to, spend time with them and have play dates and get to know each other, and then to feel like we sort of had a friendship as well, and that, but there was an understanding of the film and the story that we were trying to tell. So I just felt privileged from start to finish.
Yeah, I think we were so exceptionally lucky to have a partnership with these two women and to have our partnership on screen as well. And I think that more than the feeling of needing to do justice by Jodi and Megan, it was a feeling of needing to do justice to this story and to all of the brave women who spoke to them in order to bring this piece of journalism into the world.
Jodi and Megan, welcome. It's been 5 years. When you think about this 5 years, what do you see now as the impact of your reporting all these years later, how it's shaped coverage of other abuses? Have you been able to think about the impact of your work? Does this film even continue to affect that impact?
Part of the reason why Megan and I are just so incredibly honored by this film is that it encapsulates so much of what we believe about journalism. We had both been journalists for a long time before the Weinstein story, but the Weinstein story sort of underlined everything we believed about journalism and put exclamation points on it. And we're so grateful to the team here tonight because it's our job to build people's confidence in telling the truth. And we really hope that the film will help in that work. And what you see in particular is that the group of sources, and many of you who helped us in the film, in the real story, are here tonight, sorry. And the number of people who shared information with us was relatively small, and yet their impact was so large. And we hope this film helps people remember that these personal stories really can make an enormous difference.
And one of the things that you can see in the movie, which was absolutely true to life, is that we weren't even sure we were going to be able to publish this story. We encountered so many challenges along the way. And there's a moment where I tell Jodi in the film, and I said this in real life, like, I'm worried, is anybody going to care? And so for us, being able to publish the story, getting to the finish line and publishing the story, and then we could feel the impact almost immediately. I mean, our phones and emails were flooded with other women coming forward with their own stories from all different professions and all different walks of life. And we'd been journalists for 20 years and we had never experienced anything like that. And I think you can see the ripple effects of that playing out today. And so it's so wonderful to see, even 5 years later, this movie plunge you back to kind of one of the origin stories. And I think it's useful for everybody as Me Too continues to take twists and turns.
Thank you. Rebecca, congratulations.
Thank you. I just feel very privileged to be part of it, that Dee Dee and Jeremy asked me to be a part of it, and from, you know, a conversation in a small restaurant in London, you know, suddenly things are happening. And the book is such an incredible book, and I think that the film will make even more people buy the book, and that's amazing. And I just was very proud and inspired by the journalists and their incredible journalism, and everyone at the New York Times, and very inspired by the survivors who I met and who were just resilient and brilliant. And then, you know, for Maria to craft a film, what I'm very happy about is just that this will reach a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic.
You had this book, you had access to Megan and Jodi, their work in the Times, and as people you could reach out to. Can you share a bit more about how you approached, at the very start, the topic and the subject, and why it was something that you felt compelled to dig into?
I felt compelled as a woman. I felt compelled because I can count not on one hand but two hands how many women in my close circle have had horrific experiences. And I don't think it's talked about enough. I think shame is something that women carry and they shouldn't have to. And I think that things have to change. That's why I felt passionate. And I think if this film helps anyone in any way, then we have done our job, and that's great.
Dee Dee and Jeremy, producers of the film, I have a question. I'm going to start with you, but it's something we can also open up to the full group. But as producers of the film, you are also a direct bridge to our whole industry. I wonder if you could share with us how, as you were embarking on taking this story from a book to a movie, how did the industry respond to that? How do you feel the industry has changed or evolved now in this 5 years since this book was written, since this reporting originally came to the New York Times? Where are we now?
That's a lot, Eugene.
I know.
How did they respond when we decided to do it? I don't know. I didn't pay attention to that. Has it progressed?
Was it hard to find the resources, the support, the backing? I mean, it's always hard, right, to make a movie.
No. The book, I mean, I think the reporting was extraordinary. I think people saw the cinematic potential. I think Jodi's and Megan's work, you know, was tenured and historical and revered, and there was there were cinematic signposts. There was a clock. There was tension. There was, all the things. No, I think the great fear I had was, first of all, that we had was to get it right, to honor the sources, to honor the survivors, to honor the witnesses, to honor the legions of people who helped you, and then to honor Jodi and Megan, and then to honor the people who agreed to play all the parts. It was, that just felt, it still feels intense and profound. But Have to try, right?
I would just add that I think the way we try and approach this stuff is try and put something together that has some vitality about it. And if you look at the people on this stage, it's a real privilege to be amongst them. You know, artist, writers, director. And luckily for us, at different stages in the process, Annapurna and eventually Universal, we did have support to go out and try and tell this story, and want to show appreciation to them. But hopefully you craft it in such a way that, it's always difficult. There's always reasons to say no to things, but hopefully there's something in it, there's some energy in it, or some feeling that it has a purpose that you could build kind of a collective that will push you through.
It's my last question. I'm going to take the last piece of what I asked the two of you and open it up to anyone on the stage, and that is this. The film offers a window into an industry that is often obscured, or a certain image is presented, right, and has been presented. But this film offers a window into a dark side of that industry, and so that's why I wrote down this question of like, where are we now, especially to those who work in this industry. What have you seen? What are you seeing? Maybe glimpses of hope for this industry, or what are you seeing as the impact not only of Jodi and Megan's book, of making this movie and now bringing it out?
Okay, so anybody reading the newspaper headlines, let's just say since May, since the beginning of May, would know that we're still living in like a oppressive patriarchy. That's not special to our industry. There is so much change left to be effected. One of the things that has happened as a result of this reporting and the wave of the Me Too movement that rose from the movement started by Tarana Burke, after this reporting and the reporting that came out that subsequently, is that there is now a conversation that is open and not just behind closed doors. And I think that makes an enormous difference. There are also small things like that seem very small on the page, like having an intimacy coordinator, which now have become an industry standard. My first experience with that, I was very like weirded out in anticipation of it, and then immediately was like, oh, I would never throw a punch without a stunt coordinator there. Makes perfect sense. Why has this not been here all along? So I feel like there are certain safeguards, certain channels of communication that are open. And the thing I want to say about that is that, like for me, the thing that Jodi touched on of an individual can make change when supported by the right institutions is the most important thing. And I think for a long time, the institutions of Hollywood were all organized to support one kind of person. And my hope is that not just the change affected by the Me Too movement, but all kinds of changes happening to support many kinds of people within our industry, and then hopefully in other industries.
And I would add, to support what Zoe was saying, that so much has improved within our union. I remember being sexually harassed on set and not knowing where to go and with whom to speak about it. And now our union is so switched on and strong, and on the membership card, there's a sexual harassment hotline number. There's the definition of sexual harassment. On the webpage, on the opening of it, there's all the protocols. I can take someone to an audition with me. Auditions don't happen in hotel rooms anymore. They don't happen before, 8 o'clock in the morning and after 6 o'clock at night. And so all of that has definitely improved in our industry, as well as the industry coordinators, as was mentioned. But another thing I wanted to share is that I think that I have reframed experiences that I have had to understand that they were in fact harassment and assault when I had previously minimized them. And so I think that the individual transformation that a lot of us has had as a result of what Toronto started in 2011 and as a result of this reporting has allowed women's consciousness to transform and then to set boundaries and reclaim autonomy and say, this is the up with which I will not put, and this is the hill on which I'm willing to die. And that then affects finding voice and being able to stand up for oneself and say, do we want to be, me and my primates, a chimpanzee, 100% of all females are severely beaten and sexually coerced by males, or do I want to be a bonobo where there's no male dominance and they're free from male sexual coercion? And so these choices then become more evident, and we can establish our norms around who we want to be, because I understand that was in fact abuse and it's not normative anymore.
She Said is coming to theaters November 18th. Thank you for sharing this experience with us tonight. Thank you to this entire illustrious group for bringing the film to us and for being here. Thank you.